I wanted to say one thing about the convo with Fergie, though. I want people to hear, or parents or kids or parents of kids that play baseball or play, they need to play multiple sports. I think Fergie gives a great example of his mentality on the mound and how he used other sports, to frame his, mentality when he was pitching. And that's the same thing I did. I was a different player when I was out on the mound. I was, it was my football persona. Sometimes it could be like you have to have the different grittiness and toughness from the other sports, and you bring it to the baseball diamond. So I think a lot of people need to hear that and catch that message, because it was quick, but I think, him explaining that and framing that, I think, kids need to hear that.
So listen with that ear in mind. See, that's such a wonderful point, because it really is interesting, the comparisons that Fergie makes. So first up on this special episode of R2C2, where we have three different, impactful, awesome, interesting guests. First up is Ferguson Jenkins. Over 3,000 strikeouts in his career, 284 wins. He also had 267 complete games.
Man.
A Cy Young Award winner, a 20-game winner 7 different times in his career, and a man who is in the Baseball Hall of Fame, one of 2 Canadians, and
he was a Harlem Globetrotter.
I mean, come on. He did it all. He did it all.
He did everything.
He did it all. And he's one of 15 Black Aces in the history of baseball. Without further ado, here is Ferguson Jenkins on R2C2.
The best way for us to start is just to talk about his complete games. He's got more complete games in his career than I have wins. 267 complete games. What was it like just, taking the ball that many times, knowing that every time you went out, you were probably going to finish the game?
Well, I had a pretty good manager in Leo DeRocher. When I joined the ball club after a trade from the Phillies, he gave me that opportunity to start late in August. My first start was against Atlanta, and I think I pitched maybe 7 innings, did pretty good. The next start, I beat my fellow teammates, the Philadelphia Phillies, in 9 innings. So the nice thing about it is that the manager believes that you're still in control of the game. He's not going to make a mistake by taking you out. And I think that's something that hit home, especially for me. After I proved that I could go 9 innings, he'd leave me in ball games. Similar when I got traded to the Rangers, Billy Martin was the same type of manager, saying that if you're in control of the game, I'm leaving you alone. So that was the number one factor for me.
Yeah, and then that just gives you a lot of confidence. So I remember, obviously I didn't have as many as you did, but I just would be, in my head, I would be thinking late in the game, like, there's nobody in the bullpen anyway that can get the outs that I can get. You know what I'm saying? Like, me at 85 pitches is still better than anybody down in that bullpen except for Mariano. Unless you're going to get a ball to Mariano, I'm staying in this game.
Yeah, you're right. He was the ideal relief pitcher. If you could, if I'd pitched in his staff, I would have been glad to leave in the 6th inning, 7th inning.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Had some setup guys and then closer. I wouldn't have had as many complete ball games. I might still be pitching.
Fergie, does your arm ever hurt though when you're completing that many games? How much pain are you pitching through at that time?
I never had any. I pitched my whole career without. I never had a sore arm.
Man,
wow!
I made something like 500 plus starts. The rest of were some in the bullpen that first year with the Cubs, like 50 some. But I was very fortunate. Maybe it could have been genetics. Never had a sore arm. The odd time between starts, I might take a Tylenol to throw batting practice. Other than that, I was very fortunate. Never had any problems with my shoulder or my elbow.
Wait, you guys threw batting practice in between starts?
In between starts. I throw maybe on that second or third day to throw 5 to 10 minutes to the extra men. And
what?
Then
so no bullpen.
No.
That was
no
your bullpen.
Bullpen. I went to the mound and threw batting practice.
Wow. I've never heard that.
Warm up, get good and loose. Joe Becker was an advocate of that, Joe Becker. And I think when Atlanta, they had the same situation with Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz. They threw in between starts a lot of times too.
Man, I didn't know
but
that.
It helped my control. Yeah, definitely. I proved to myself that I could do it, first of all. When they said, hey, we want you to throw BP, I say, to who? To myself. to the extra men. I said, okay, I can throw to them. So we had 6 or 7 guys who were extra men, and they took 8 or 9 swings, and within 10 minutes, I'm done.
You know what, though? I found on the days that, like on 3 days rest, like you said, or the days when you're a little tired, it helps you with your control because you can't overthrow. So you have to stay within yourself and just make pitches.
Yep. And it helped me throw strikes down and away, down and in, or just in a lot of times to right-handed hitters. Because a lot of guys would reach out over the plate. Dusty Baker was one of those that reach out over the plate, a few other guys. But there was certain right-handed hitters. If I'm pitching down and away slider, now they're looking away.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to straighten them up, change their eye level a little bit, or just change their feet. Rico Cardi was another one that if you kept pitching him down the way, he's going to get you.
So Fergie, when you're throwing BP, this is fascinating because, like C, I've never heard of starters doing this. When you're throwing BP, how hard are you throwing, and are you mixing in? I mean, normally BP is right just straight, but are you actually mixing in different pitches as you're doing this?
If they want me to throw maybe a changeup or a slider, I didn't throw many curveballs in BP, but I had an L screen in front of me, so there wasn't balls that were going to hit up the middle. I might get hurt. But I pitched a lot of times with an L screen, and it's surprising if you're off a good maybe 10 feet, that ball's not going to hit you because when you throw, you end up getting behind that screen. So the ball, it'll hit the screen, it won't hit you. But the nice thing about it, I might throw the odd slider if they wanted, but most of the time it was a good sinking fastball, good running fastball to certain guys.
And you got to think that helps the extra guys, too, getting a chance to face the ace. You know what I'm saying? Getting at bats and guys coming off the bench, pinch hitting. You know, if you want to see a live arm, that's got to help the team.
Oh, definitely. You know, because a lot of times the coach throws from 45 feet, but I was throwing from the hill, from the mound. And that ball, you still have that movement that you want to see. A lot of times, you want to see it yourself. So I had a pretty good sinker, a good running fastball.
How about, Fergie, you're from Canada.
Right.
When you think about the ways in which, if there are any, like being Canadian, you felt that in your personality, in your makeup, on the mound. How did being Canadian impact you in your 19-year career?
Well, I was a hockey player first. So playing a defense situation where I did, going in the corners to try to get a puck away from the forward. I mean, you had to keep your heads up, you know, and a lot of times elbows would fly, pushing, shoving, a lot of stick action. But I think that I understood, similar to basketball, underneath the hoop, trying to get a ball away from a forward or another guard. I mean, that was just something that told me that if I was going to be forceful enough on the hill to understand I'm out there to win a ball game, and I'm not letting any kind of patsy get away, as you call it. You know, we had guys. No, this is the truth. Late in the lineup, maybe 6 and 7, or maybe 7 and 8, and then you got to face the pitcher. Those guys, you got to get those guys out.
Yeah.
So you got to go right at it. And I think hockey helped me be a little more forceful with certain guys. I wasn't afraid to throw at people too. So I pitched a little over 18 years in the big leagues. I only hit 84 guys when you think about it. That's almost six a year. Mm-hmm. So I threw at guys. I let them know. Don Clendenin was one guy, late Don Clendenin. He almost came out there. He changed his mind. Changed his mind. I don't know why. Changed his mind. There were a few guys I let know. Hey, I threw a crane pull from time to time. You know, great story. I tell people all the time. Bob Gibson never hit right-handed against me. He always hit left-handed for some reason. I used to make Lou Brock skip rope. Same thing with Kurt Flood. Sometimes, so Gibby I'd go up to hit, and McCarver would say, "You better be alive, big fella," like that. He'd throw hard in at me, and I said, "Timmy, he's going to hit, and I'm not coming out of this ball game." So he used to hit left-handed off me. Seaver hit me. Seaver threw at me and got me. Gaylord got me. There's been a few guys that nicked me, so I didn't mind. Hey, if I threw at somebody, one of their players, you know, the end result in the National League, if they didn't wait for the leadoff guy, they're waiting for the pitcher.
They're coming to get you. Yeah,
right.
Big time.
I've only had that scenario one time in Dodger Stadium where they threw at Cano got hit, and so then I hit the pitcher, but then I had to hit. So then I'm getting up there, I'm in the box, and I'm like in the back corner of the box, the first 3 pitches, because I'm thinking I'm getting hit. He never threw one close, but it's still, that's the consequences of pitching in the National League or pitching, in interleague when you pitch in National League parks, is if you're going to hit somebody, then you got to understand that you got to hit if you're going to stay in the game.
For sure. That's it. I mean, you got to pay the consequences sometimes.
Man, that's great.
Fergie, what determined whether or not you were going to throw at someone? What made you think, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to brush this person off the plate or target them or whatever lane you ended up going.
As a pitcher, I got thrown out of one game. Billy Sample had like a 28-game hitting streak in Texas. And I'm not sure the left-handed pitcher that threw at him, but Dan Ford was the leadoff guy after he got hit, after our inning was over. And Dan Ford knew I was going to throw at him. I mean, he was on the edge of the batter's box on the right side. And it took 3 pitches, but I got him. And the umpire never warned. He just threw me out of the game. Threw me and Pat Corrales. Corrales was the manager. Jenkins, you're gone. Corrales, you're gone. Threw me out of the game.
Wow.
Man. You mentioned that Cardinals lineup. What was the toughest lineups that you faced back then? Like, was that one of the tougher ones? Oh, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh with Clemente, Stargell, Richie Hebner. A lot of left-handed hitters against me. Moises Alou. Oh, geez, Matty Alou. There was some guys that they would basically switch lineups. The Dodgers were the same thing. They had a switch hitting lineup. So I've seen a lot of left-handed, maybe 6 out of the starting lineup. With I might have Parker, I might have Buckner. Let me see, who's the other guy? Second baseman that played. I can't think of his name now. But there was a lot of guys that I knew when I faced a certain ball club, I might see maybe 5 or 6 left-hand hitters against me. Lefevre was the guy.
Lefevre.
Yeah, with the Dodgers.
You
they had Ron Fairley there too. So they had a pretty good lineup.
Obviously, you have an illustrious career overall, and especially your 10 years with the Cubs, right? When you think about that fan base, knowing, hey, you were there at a time where that fan base was still tortured, as they were for over a century until 2016, right? How much of a driving factor was it thinking about, generations of fans who had never seen this team win? I mean, how conscious were all of you who were in uniform of what the organization had been through for so many years?
Well, I got traded to the Cubs in '66. Our average fan base was like 8,000 to 10,000 people.
Wow.
Most of them were in the bleachers.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't really get fans until '68, '69, when we really proved that we were tough in that division. It was only 2 divisions. The Cardinals were always pretty strong, along with Pittsburgh, and the Mets came on. But we didn't prove that we could win until those 2 years, '68, '69. And in '70, we started drawing over 1 million fans at home. But the fan base basically was part of it, was part of the bleacher bums back when we made a trade for Dick Selma. Dick Selma started that towel situation where he'd be in the bullpen waving the towel, and the bleacher bums, they started wearing yellow helmets. And when he put that towel up, man, people were screaming. Incredible. And then we started scoring runs. So that was a big thing that really helped us.
I mean, how gratifying was that then, Fergie, when they win in 2016, knowing that your team, helped to stir the fan base, a few decades before, and that the journey took as long as it did? What was it like for you seeing them get to the mountaintop a few years ago?
Oh, it was fantastic, because I had seen a lot of those youngsters in spring training, and they made trades for people that would helping fill a spot back and forth. And then the pitching came on. I just think that they proved that this organization was not going to surrender late in the season. And back then you had to beat the wild card team too. Mm-hmm. So they beat the wild card team, and then they got in the playoffs, then the World Series. I just believed when I came here in that World Series when they were playing Cleveland, and they got shut out the first day 1-0, and then they lost again. I went, oh man, it's going to be one of those years. They lost 7-2, and I said, now they're down 2-1, and then they won, and then they got to go to Cleveland, and they won 2 in a row. The hitting came through. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I'm watching the game at home. I was really happy for these young men because they proved that if you work hard enough, especially with they had Chris Bryant at third, and Rios, and let me see. There were so many young guys that really played well. They had Foley in the outfield. And they really proved that they were the team to beat.
Yeah, it was cool to see them be able to put that together with homegrown talent too. There's a lot of guys that they raised up, to be able to win a World Series there was awesome. Yeah,
I think that was a big plus. Plus, they made a couple of trades for pitching, which really helped them. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen again, but right now they're suffering. I think the Cubs right now they're almost in last place. Cincinnati, I think, is underneath them, but it's due to change. At least I hope it does.
For sure.
See, you were there when Fergie got his statue this season at Wrigley Field. What was that experience like for you, and why was it so important to you to be there?
No, it was super important for me to be there just because of me and Fergie's relationship. Me and Fergie met, I think, in 2007, the first time at the Warren Spahn award in Oklahoma City, and we just kept a good relationship since then. And when I got a chance to join the Black Aces, it just kind of helped further our relationship along. And when I heard he was getting the statue, it was the first thing I was like, oh, I got to be on a plane. I have to be there. And it was an amazing experience. The Cubs, they do it right, man. It was Wrigley was awesome. The experience, for Fergie, everything that they did was amazing, and to see him get a statue was incredible. Like it was super almost like the Hall of Fame when I went. Like it's inspiring to see a generation or a guy like that, a generational talent, get a statue outside the stadium where he deserves it. It was awesome to be there.
Fergie, how about that day for you?
Oh, it was, well, I tell people when they retired my number and May 3rd of 2009, that was the icing on the cake. Now I have the whole cake. Believe me. I was over there today and I seen the statue. It's still, it gives you kind of shivers going. You say to yourself, my other 3 teammates, Billy's there, Ernie and Ronnie, and we had such a good camaraderie together. And now to see immortalized in a statue, I've told my kids, hey, when I'm gone, it's going to still be there. Yep. And celebrate saying, hey, that's my dad, that type of situation. But it gives you shivers knowing that the organization took the time to really tell you that they're proud of what you did. And I tell people all the time, I had fun playing. I enjoyed myself.
See, we wanted to have a Black Aces episode here this week and talking with Fergie, talking with Dontrelle, obviously you being one of the 15 20-game winners who are Black pitchers in baseball. See, how would you describe kind of the camaraderie of the group or the fraternity, the connection, the way that it feels like you guys are all threaded together and so proud and connected with each other?
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that we are, it's one thing that we are connected. We all can call each other or text each other, whatever. But it's a real thing that we are really the only 15 guys that ever won 20 games in the big leagues. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a real connection. Like, there's a direct line from, Don Newcomb all the way down to David Price. You know what I'm saying? Or whoever the next guy is going to be. So, that is a real connection. That's something that we all share. And, that's something that can never be broken. And I think that's what Mudcat was trying to get through my big skull was that you need to be a part of this. You know what I'm saying? And I never understood, why he was so adamant about that, but now I do. Now I understand, and so that connection is already a real thing. But to be able to pick up the phone and be able to call Stu or Price or Fergie, and have that connection, is like he says, just the icing on the cake.
What would Mudcat say to you, see?
About winning 20 games?
No, yeah. What he was trying to get through to you.
No, he was just always trying to explain to me what the Black Aces were and how important it was for me to win 20 games. Even after I won the Cy Young, I always tell that story. He presented me with the Cy Young out on the field and told me this is not enough. Like, you still need to win 20 games. Like, you need to be a part of the Black Aces. So that was something that at that moment I was kind of upset. You know what I mean? Like, I just won a Cy Young. I was the best pitcher in the league, and you telling me I need to do something else? Like, how can I get it, better than that? So, but now I understand. I get it now.
How about you, Fergie? What does the connection mean between the 15 of you?
Well, the biggest thing is we proved that it takes a lot of hard work. The number one thing, you have to understand, out on the mound, you've got to be smart. I think more than anything else, being smart enough to outwit your opponent, the other pitcher. And then the other thing is you got to tell the opponent batters, especially the hitters, that I'm out here to stay. I'm out here to win. And that's the number one factor. That's proved to me to be with the Cubs when I was the number one pitcher for like 7-8 years before I got traded. Then the trade happened. When I went to Texas, Billy Martin said, "Can you still win?" I said, "Yes, I can. You just give me that ball every fourth day. I can win some ball games for you." And I think that's the number one factor. You got to convince yourself and the organization. Then you got to convince the manager that you can still win. And the manager is the most important thing because he watches you. I mean, people don't think that. The manager watches you saying that, hey, it's a time to take him out. It's a time to leave him. Do I have that confidence to leave him out there? Because it's a two-edged sword sometimes. If he makes the mistake of not taking you out, not putting the bullpen out there, he gets ridiculed. So now you got to tell yourself, I'm pitching for yourself, the team, the manager. The manager's got to trust your ability. Believe me.
It's funny because that first year in Texas, you won 25 games and led the league. So I guess you were right to tell Billy you still have it.
The next year I won 17 games, then I got traded to Boston. So, I mean, you got to keep winning. I think that's the important thing. Like, and Dontrelle will tell you the same thing. When you take that hill, the confidence level to get your opponent out on a daily or on a rotation. It's not a daily basis. It's a rotation. He's going to come up that first time. He's going to come up the second time, the third time. Sometimes that fourth time, you got to tell yourself, hey, how did I get him out the third time? And he's concentrating on, hey, I can get to this guy. No, you can't get to me because I know what I want to do. So that's a big plus.
Yeah. It's just interesting, Fergie, seeing how I think insistent upon it being your game, right, to finish. You were, I mean, obviously the complete game stats tell that, as C pointed out, but the mentality behind that and sort of taking ownership of winning and losing the game, not just pitching well or not pitching well, right? And C, you were someone who very much had that as well. You were at a time where the game was starting to go another way, right? Like, you come in, let's just take your first few years at the Yankees. You come there, it's like, no, I'm going 7, I'm going 8, like I'm going 9. Like it's my game. But there does seem to be, there's this element that I admire that you guys both have, see, of like, it's my game. Like, winning and losing it's on me. It's not just about me performing well for 6 innings. Oh, hey, I got my 18 outs. I did my job. No. I need to see this to the end. So I guess I give that background to say, Fergie, what do you think as you see the game start to evolve where starters don't go quite as long? And maybe we're seeing some teams actually start to buck that trend this year. The Yankees are going deeper with their rotation this year. But as you see guys just go 5 innings, I mean, what do you think as a starter who did the exact opposite of that?
Well, I seen it happen, I think, first with Oakland, with Tony La Russa when he had such a good bullpen. And then it was with Joe Torre when he had such a good bullpen. When I was with the Cubs, we had 2 relievers. There was only 9 pitchers on the staff. We had Phil Reagan and Ted Abernathy, 2 guys, and Leo would use them up, and they were done after July. So I knew that. Hey, I might have to say, hey, I couldn't really, it's not that I'm the confidence level. I'm not saying I didn't believe that they could get people out, but now they're used up. We just didn't have a bullpen that was far enough along that we had extra guys to call upon. So for me to complete a ball game, when Leo would walk by me and he would say, "Hey, big fella, we're giving the bullpen a rest tonight, or the afternoon or whatever," I said, "That's fine with me." And Billy Martin would do the same thing sometimes. But you for example, CC, and you had Mariano Rivera. And I mean, that in the back of my mind knew if I could go 8 strong innings, I got a bullpen. That's going to close it out. And he closed out so many games, over 600 plus. So that was a big plus. I don't know how many relief appearances Phil Reagan had or Abernathy. Not as much as Mariano. And I didn't have Lee Smith until he got good. I had already left.
He was already at the back end, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lee Smith came on in 82, 83, but he didn't start to really save games until 84, 85. He was winning that Rolaids award. But Lee Smith would come in. He just learned how to pitch out of the bullpen. But the guy's 6'9", throwing 100 miles an hour. Believe me, if I'd have had him early in my career, I wouldn't mind coming out of ball games.
I like that.
But did you hear what he said, though? There's only 9 pitchers on the staff. There's some teams that carry 14 pitchers, 13 pitchers. There's only 9 pitchers on the staff. So, I mean, the emphasis was on finding starters that can finish games, period.
Yeah.
Because the guys that were in the bullpen at that time, and even when I first came up, were failed starters. So that's why I said at the beginning of this, me at 85 pitches is better than anybody they got down there, except for Mariano. And I always thought that. I always thought, like, me at 115 pitches, I'm still the best option we got. Right. So I'm going to finish this out. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way I thought.
I think you thought accurately about that. Fergie,
For sure.
I'd love to ask you about your mother, because I know when you were playing sports growing up, she always felt like you were going to be a baseball player, even though she was blind. How did she sense that in you and know that in you and know that that was the sport for you?
Well, my father was the first individual that got me interested in baseball at like 9 years old. And I played a lot of different sports. And I played a lot of hockey, a lot of basketball. Baseball was just a sport I played in the summer. But what happened after Gene DeJura, the scout that ended up coaching me, and he was my mentor, he told me right away, he says, first base is not the position for you. You should be on the hill. You should start pitching. So we started working out together in a local gymnasium. And the reports were, I guess, a big plus. When I threw a no-hitter, I threw a couple of one-hitters, and my mom could sense that these other sports, put them on the back burner. You should concentrate more on pitching. She would always tell me, finish what you start. And that was a big advocate. I used to tell myself, hey, I'm out there to do a good job, but if I don't do a good job, I know that I'm gonna get taken out of the ball game. But if I'm doing a good job, I can start what I finish and finish what I start.
Well, you certainly heeded Mom's advice. We know that, as the complete games would indicate. Fergie, we so appreciate the time and you being a part of our special Juneteenth Black Aces R2C2 episode. I know CC always raves about you, and I saw how excited he was to be there in Chicago for your statue. So thank you for giving us some time today. We really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Baseball, to me, proved that a Canadian can play. You don't see a lot of Canadian pitchers out there. I'm one of them.
Hey, it's lonely for you in that Hall of Fame.
Well, no, we got Larry Walker.
Larry Walker joined you.
He was an everyday player. But he's one hell of a player. So I'm happy to have him join me in the Hall of Fame for sure.
Great stuff, Fergie. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Fergie.
Take care.
Okay. All right, CC.
I love listening to Fergie for a variety of reasons. I just also love how honest he was about drilling guys, like he's like, yeah, like this is when I would hit guys.
I'm throwing that Kurt Flood, Lou Brock, like he's casually throwing at Hall of Famers. You know what I'm saying? Like making Bob Gibson switch around and hit left-handed. But then like I'm thinking like, why would he hit left-handed? Because if he hit him in the elbow, his right arm is the lead arm. So he would want to face him righty.
That's a great question. Like we're going to have to get Fergie back on to ask. If Bob
is switching around to face him left-handed, why wouldn't he just throw a ball right at his elbow? Like,
you know what? This is a really good point. See, I think that Bob actually put himself in more.
You see how dirty I am, bro? Like, I'm like, that's the type of shit I think about. Like, oh, you want to hit left-handed? Okay. I'm going to throw one
I'm gonna drill you right in the arm. Yeah.
Right at your elbow. Right.
Oh my gosh. But you didn't hit guys intentionally that much, did you?
Nah, not that much. I don't even know how many guys I hit in my career, but you had to do something to me for me to hit you or my team. So doing something to my team is doing something to me.
Right. You weren't just like going out and doing that.
No, I wasn't because I was getting beat maybe I'm trying to think early in my career, did I do that? I don't think I threw at anybody because they took me deep or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I never did that. That just wasn't me. Like, I felt like if you took me deep and then I threw at you, then that just proves that you better than me.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get you out the next couple times. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I'm throwing at you because I can't get you out.
Maybe you back someone off the plate or something if they're too comfortable.
Always move guys. Always move. I want you to move your feet. I always move guys, but I would never just throw at guys because they were better than me.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I would hit Evan Longoria every fucking time. I never threw a ball close to him. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe you should have.
Exactly.
Well, we go from one black ace to another. Dontrelle Willis. By the way, I just got the info. You hit 123 batters in your career, see?
Oh, that's a lot. Jeez.
I don't know how many of them were intentional.
Fergie only said 84, so 123 is a lot.
He pitched a little more than you too. Yeah, he topped you an inning. So yeah, we get to chat now with another black ace, another one of the 15 black 20-game winners in the history of baseball, a World Series champ, a 2-time All-Star, a current Fox Sports analyst, an Emmy Award winner, and a guy who you guys are going to really enjoy listening to. So next up on this special episode of R2C2 is Dontrelle Willis. Dontrelle, the first thing just love to bring up initially is it's interesting, even looking at your Twitter profile, right? It talks about, hey, World Series winner, 2-time All-Star, Emmy Award winner, Spawn Award winner, black ace. And I know how much that means to see. We just talked with Fergie Jenkins about it. You know, why does it mean so much to you to be one of the 15 black aces in the history of baseball?
Man, till this day, it's shocking that it's me. Now, see, I have to take it all into context because Cece, your co-host, has been good at everything for a long time. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? For me, I was always honest about who I was as an athlete and as a player. And to be able to be impactful enough to be mentioned in the name of Gibson or Fergie Jenkins or Cece Sabathia and all these guys that just have remarkably better stuff than I ever could think of possessing. It's a true honor, man. So, it's my proudest honor, obviously being a world champion and having that experience. But, till this day, especially African Americans, they see me and they're like, man, you a black ace, man. And I'm like, yeah, that shit is kind of nice though. You know what I mean? It's just a surreal thing. And I'm a guy that doesn't take compliments well. So, but again, I just feel truly honored to just be tied with African American greatness.
That's what I was saying. It's a surreal feeling to be like that. It's you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, we are one of 15 to do something in the history of baseball. Like, that's a weird thing to like process. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, because all you ever want to do is just play in the big leagues and provide for your family and then win a world. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was never about this being this bigger thing than the game. But, having our love for the game and being able to perform the way we did, it kind of turned into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 1,000%. And I remember I'm in Washington, D.C., and she calls me like, cuz, you won 20, cuz, I'm hella mad, man. I got to win 22. And, at this point, CeCe's already well established and one of the best pitchers in the game. But, it's transcending when people of different backgrounds are happy for you. Like, I remember when I did it in D.C., like, everybody was just, white, the Latins, they were just so overjoyed for me. And winning 20 games, it's a team effort. You need everybody to be able to win 20 games. So, they were just excited for me, man. And honestly, that was the first time I cried, like, just out of emotion, because it was just so joyful. And I already won a World Series. I was like, where the party at, bro? Like, we win. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you win that, but it was really cool to experience that with people that really care about you in the game.
It's funny, C, because like Dontrelle said, you were established. Dontrelle got his 20 in 2005, but you didn't end up getting yours till 2010.
2010, yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but you had a shot for 20, your final start of 2009, and you got lit up by the Rays.
Yeah.
I think was it on your mind in that start? It was your last start before playoffs too, so maybe you weren't going to get to go 5 innings, but like, because they might have just had a tune-up for you. But
you know what was on my mind, cuz? Like, I didn't want to win the Cy Young. Like, I wasn't like that year in 09 because the year in 2007 was the best year of my career. 1907, I win the Cy Young. I go to the playoffs. I pitch like shit. So that's all that's in my mind is like, I kind of wanted to have a bad start. I didn't want to win that game. Like, I wanted like a clunker in there in between me going to the playoffs, so that like it wasn't the same as 2007. The only thing that was on my mind in 2009 was how bad I pitched in 2007 in the playoffs, and I couldn't have that shit happen in New York. I swear to God, I had a conversation with OG Juan about this the night before that game. I was like, bro, I'm going to just go out there. Like, I don't care. He was like, you got a chance to win 20 games. I'm like, no, the playoffs is more important. I feel like if I just go out and not give 100%, I'll be better for the playoffs. Stupid way of thinking, but I promise you that's what I was thinking. I didn't want to have like a great into the season and everybody be all hyped. I wanted to be like a little, is he going to be able to do it or not? And then go out and be able to pitch well.
See, I love that comment, and that throughout that whole rant, only Hall of Fame cats talk like that. Well, I don't want to pitch well by my last game. Only Hall of Fame cats. I deal with Dave Stewart. I deal with Frank Thomas. Those Hall of Fame cats on a different level, man. So I was like, the rest of the country's in the middle. We're B- students, but you Hall of Fame cats are different. But God bless you, bro. God bless you.
All I was thinking about was 2007 and how bad I pitched in the playoffs, and I couldn't have that happen again.
That is hilarious, and I love that, Dontrelle, because he was just like, yeah, don't worry, I'll go get it next year.
I'll get it.
Let me take care of the championship this year. Let me get my ring, and then I'll go get it. That, you know what? What's amazing about that, though, C, is like that kind of thought is like the kind of thought just like a random fan would have, right? And you think that athletes are impervious to that stuff. And you are proving to us that you are not, that you think the exact same way. Like, hold on a second. I won a Cy Young in 07, pitched like trash in the playoffs. This is going to be different. I'm not winning that Cy Young, so I can go in, get my bad start out of the way, go pitch in the play. Like, you actually think this way. It's amazing.
You got to think we all fans. You know what I'm saying? Like, we grew up loving the game. I know Dontrelle grew up a big Dave Stewart fan, big A's fan. Like, we grew up fans, Raider fans. Like, he could probably tell you more about the Raiders than I can. So, that fandom never goes away. You know what I'm saying? And I think, that's what brings us closer to the game. And this new media of us, younger players being able to speak our mind and talk on these podcasts and, trail on Fox and, doing the Dodger stuff, is because he was a huge fan. He could talk about different sports.
So, Dontrelle, you're just as big a Raiders fan as C? Is that what I'm learning?
Man, I live and die. Let me tell you something. I'm not happy. My mother and I, we don't even talk until Wednesday if they play bad. Like that's how salty we are, man. Like we love Derek Carr, but if he misses a 10-yard out, I'm MFing him. I'm like, Derek, and so I get it. When I pitch like trash, especially in Detroit, I'm not even mad at people for booing me because I get it, because you want somebody to be successful for your team because you bring them joy for the 4 hours that they spend their hard-earned money. So, but yeah, I'm a diehard fan. I got a real cool picture of my mom. The Raiders honored me at the Oakland Coliseum. And my mom's talking to Al Davis and is giving him an earful. I'm like, you don't leave that man alone. like she's just talking to him about the team and stuff. And so I got to repost that picture. But yeah, man, I just love athletics, and sports saves a lot of lives, man. And I'm one of them.
Nah, especially where we from. You know what I'm saying? Growing up in the Bay. And but talk about how, like, the baseball culture out there. I think everybody, you know, they always hear us growing up in the hood. But in the Bay, like, baseball was the number one sport. It's like basketball in New York City. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Man, listen, it doesn't matter where you are from the Bay. The Bay is a massive place, but it's very small. So you find out quickly. Like, I remember hearing about a CC Sabathia. Like, first of all, half the cats in the Bay don't never say your name right. So it was Sabathia, and it was all this. It was like, but this dude
Sabathia, I like that.
Yeah. It was everything.
It was everything.
You know what I mean? It was everything. So like, it's a huge pride thing with people from the Bay, because everybody's from pockets of the neighborhood. And if you're able to establish a really good team, you want to go into East Oakland and play. If you're from Vallejo, you want to go to El Cerrito, you want to go into Alameda, you want to go into San Francisco. And so your name rings out. And so, you know what I mean? And the coolest thing about being from the Bay, even to this day, when I meet people that are fans of baseball, if they're from the Bay, they're like, man, you're a Bay Area guy. Like, I'm from so-and-so. You're a Bay Area guy. Like, we're all cousins in that. So the competition is fierce. Guys are talking trash. The parents talking trash. You know what I mean? At church, they like, you better throw that ball to their train. Like, you know what I mean? It's intense, man. So, and I think that's a big reason why, a lot like the New York area, it gets us ready for battle. It gets us ready to go out there and compete at a high level. So, you know, I wouldn't change a thing, man. I knew my career was going to an end when my family stopped picking me on the fantasy baseball team. It was like, oh, man. I knew it was like, all right, bro. Like, they in my house talking bad about me too. They in my house like, Adam Wainwright. Nah, I'm gonna go with Adam Wainwright. You know what I mean? Yeah. So. No, but yeah, I wouldn't change a thing growing up from there.
You know what's crazy too is, oh no, go ahead, Rico.
No, I was just gonna say, see, when did you start to hear about Dontrelle? Like, obviously,
that's what I was just about to say. Is that like the three best guys from our generation? Like, the guy that I would always hear about was Jimmy Rollins. Like, from the time I turned 12 years old, I was like, man, this is little dude in Oakland that switch hit. That is Ricky Henderson. That's all you heard about. You know what I'm saying? And then I got a chance to play with Jimmy and Antoine, Jimmy's little brother. And then as me and Antoine were coming up, all we heard about was Dontrelle. It's this kid at Alameda that throws cheese, he hits bombs, and like, it's just the lineage of it. You know what I'm saying? It's Dave Stewart, it's Ricky Henderson, it's Frank Robinson, it's all these different guys from the Bay. And I think I'm most proud of our generation, because we were the three biggest names, you know, in the 90s, or I guess in the late 90s. And we all ended up winning World Series. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
We all ended up winning the World Series. You know, Trell wins the Rookie of the Year. Jimmy wins the MVP. Like, we kind of lived up to our hype. You know what I'm saying? So I feel super proud of us three as a group, what we were able to accomplish for the Bay Area.
You know what's so crazy, and I always laugh about it when I think about you, man, is you remember we went to that Warriors game together, bro? Like, they were showing us so much love, and CC this one song, and we sit in the floor and we chained up and everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we home, bro. Like, you know, it was one of those moments where we, you know, every time they had a timeout, we turning around and yelling and giving the peace signs to everybody, because they were just showing us so much love and like appreciation, man. And you know, you don't realize, I mean, I'm sure when you're done, and I'm having nostalgia now of the impact of people that you might not get a chance to meet. And so when I hear the Alex Manoas and the Gio Gonzalez's and the Nestor Cortes talk about how impactful I was, like, I seen Anthony Rizzo, and he gave me a bear hug. I mean, like, everybody that's from South Florida just talking about seeing me slide head first and all kind of wild ass stuff. Like, there's no monetary value to me for that. So when I got a chance to get around Dave Stewart, man, I teared up, man. I said, man, you saved my life, man. And, Stu don't like that stuff. You know what I mean? Stu like that, you know what I mean? But, I mean that, man. And I know he appreciates that. And so growing up in the Bay Area, man, like, especially our generation, the A's and the Giants were good. So Battle of the Bay was everything. So, you know what I mean? It was everything. And I told Will Clark, I said, man, I heard you're a racist, man, but I had your picture of you on my wall. He started dying laughing, bro. I said, I love you. I love you, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? You was the hero, man. I wanted to hit. Yeah.
At Candlestick, bro, I was standing outside the gate one time, and I tried to get his autograph. Motherfucker rolled my arm up in his window.
No,
I promise you. Yeah, he did.
Hope it was your right arm.
It was my left arm. I remember that. I remember that for sure.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy, man. Do you remember the first time? So that's the first time you kind of heard about Dontrelle. Do you remember the first time you guys actually interacted?
The first time we met would have probably been through our financial advisor, right? Like after you got drafted. It might have been like right when you got traded.
Yeah, Steve Reed. Steve Reed.
It might have been. It might have been like right when you got traded is when we met, and then it was in the off season, and then it was Raider games and hanging out and doing everything during the season. But it was it was right. It was right after you got traded from the Cubs to the Marlins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was love. It was always love, and I've always looked at C as a big brother, and we've had off days in New York together. And, when I'm playing the Mets and, he's playing the Yankees, we was on the Indians, and I used to come over. That's one thing about CC. If you're going to go over his house, bro, you're going to be there all day.
You're going to be there all night. Nah,
he ain't letting you leave,
You're
bro.
going to be there all night.
Cuz you leaving, bro? I'm not taking 5 hours, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, bro. Like, we didn't watch 2 games, my G. Like, we watched 2 games. Amber want me up out of here, bro. Amber want me about this mug, bro.
Hey,
like,
you know what? You know what? One of the earlier times we hung out was, remember we came to that party, that 25 under or 20 under 20 or 25 under 20, the ESPN party out here?
Lit. I had no business in that party because I had a magazine cover that year, and nobody knew who the hell I was.
It was like the top 25.
Was it the next? Were you on the cover of the next?
It was like the top 25 under 25, and me, him, and Jimmy made the list. And
we're at the 40-40 club, and I'm sitting there with this watered down cranberry and vodka, not knowing, because I'm just so green, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it was lit, man. We had to get. I think they thought I was Cece's little brother or cousin or some shit. You know what I mean? But it was fun, man. We had a good time, man. Laughing, man. I'll never forget that.
I'm picturing you trying to leave C's house and him being like, no, you're not going.
Especially back when I was drinking, like, it was bad. You got to stay all night.
The peer pressure was ferocious.
Yeah.
Because C is emotional, man. So it's like, I don't want this big bear ass dude on me, bro, behind leaving his eye, bro. One more game, bro. Let's watch one more game. But it's always love, man. They always took me in open arms, and I'm very thankful for that.
Dontrelle, I know that this is something you've talked about in the past, but in case our audience is not familiar with it, where does the leg kick come from?
Well,
the motion in general.
If you see me in person, like, I can get, and Aaron Boone always says this about me, I can get my wallet over my shoulders because my ass is on my shoulders, basically. Like, I have long legs, like really long legs. And Dennis Eckersley was huge, like, back when we were kids. And, I played a game called Strikeout with a bunch of kids in our neighborhood, and we was always hitting bombs off each other because we knew it was coming because we played every day. And I just started doing the leg kick, and they were like, man, I can't see that ball, man. And so I started taking it onto the field, and I started getting the same results. And it was just like, and it spread like wildfire because nobody was doing that, you know what I mean, in our generation.
Yeah.
And nobody knew who Vita Blue was or anything like that at that time as a kid. But all of a sudden, it just started timing up, and I felt coordinated. And honestly, it was kind of like with my hat tilted to the side. I didn't even notice I was really doing it like that until people started really making a big noise about it.
That is amazing, man.
When you play Strikeout in the hood, cuz And this is what I be trying to tell people. That's why like baseball in the Bay is like basketball here. It's like Rucker Park. Like everybody can hit. So the harder you throw, the better the hitters are. Especially, you know what I'm saying? It's like the Dominican. Like we could all hit fastballs. You know what I'm saying? So when you're playing strikeouts, you had to find ways to be deceptive. And you didn't know what you were doing when you were that young, but like hiding the ball and, you know, doing all that stuff. But that game was huge for us in the Bay, man. And I think a lot of kids miss that. You know what I'm saying?
Got the worst whooping from my mom. Oh, she beat the brakes off me because I found some paint and I painted on the side of the house a strike zone. And man. It was perfect length though, because I had my boy Ross. So I was like, stand here, it's perfect now. It was K-zone ready, bro, back then. It was K-zone ready, bro. We knew it was K-zone ready, but you know, it's funny because a lot of the people in my neighborhood still live there. And they joke around and they tell my mom, well, that damn spray paint paid off because you ain't living here no more. But like you love strikeout, and he's absolutely right. Guys used to throw from like 40 feet and be throwing as hard as they can. So 60 feet was nothing for us in the big leagues.
That is awesome. You guys are talking about strikeout. I think I know the game, but just for any of our audience who doesn't, you want to just give them quick parameters of the rules of strikeout?
Okay, basically, strikeout is played basically anywhere as long as you have a wall, and then you can make your own dimension. So you could be looking at a house across the street. On top of that house is a homer. Off the top of the window is a double, like single. And you just make sure you have a strike zone, and you just go at it with a tennis ball. And this is back in the day when like TPX was huge. So that aluminum ball, those balls were getting crushed in the arguments, but what it did was, you know, it's a lot like wiffle ball, but it taught us competition. It taught us strike zone awareness. And that's why CC says when we got up to the big leagues and we had to hit for ourselves, it was nothing. You know what I mean? We were athletic enough because we've seen every pitch from every arm angle, you know what I mean? And so it's a fun game. I still get a chance to play it. I got a bigger yard now, thank God. But, it's one of my favorite games to play.
Man, we used to play on the church door in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
We played the church. The church door was the strike zone. Yeah, it was like it had the perfect like little square in the church door. And that's what we played in the front of the church in the parking lot, guys.
I love it. Dontrelle, you talked about Nestor Cortes earlier and kind of like what it means to you when you hear a guy like him say you were inspiration for him. What do you think watching Nestor and the season that he's having and really the last 2 years and just the pitcher he's become?
Just Miami style at its finest. You know what I mean? Like this crafty, a competitor in his own way. And that's the one thing that I like about it. Like he challenges himself mechanically for his stuff. And I think he does a masterful job playing off of Severino and Cole's velocity. So when you see velo like that all the time and all of a sudden you see a cutter from Nestor, listen, when I saw that at bat that Mike Trout had, I was like, man, I've never seen him overwhelmed like Mike Trout before. Like, you know what I mean? Because the cutter and the fastball, and he understands very well how his stuff impacts to the hitter. And I think that's the biggest thing and key for pitching. So, you know, even his last start, he was in a couple 93, 94s. I was like, whoa, slow it down a little bit because he's feeling good about himself. You know what I mean? But he's taking the city by storm because he plays and he looks like everybody on the street. And that's why everybody loves him. Like, you know, and so I'm so proud of him, man, his development. He's a gamer though, man. He wants the ball. And I feel like if he's sandwiched in between, you know, Sevy and Cole, he's going to be a tough matchup for whoever he faces, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's very self-aware. You know what I'm saying? Like he understands himself and his stuff so good. And when he's over 90, it's hard for him it's hard to hit him. Because he's so small and it comes out of everywhere and it's just on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the harder, the better the velocity, especially later in the year, it's gonna really get scary how good he can be. Hopefully, you know, everybody can stay healthy and all of that, but it's gonna be scary how good he can be in the playoffs. You know, I think he could be the number 2, and then you put Sevy number 3.
The ability to miss barrels, it's the reason why you're in the Hall of Fame, because once your velocity went, you all of a sudden understood how to pitch. No disrespect to the Cleveland CC, so because I like 97 on the black, like, you know what I'm saying? I like that. But at the same time, I think you learned how to throw the breaking ball arm side, back door to the right-handed batter. You learn how to expand your plate coverage. So, nah, man, it's fun to watch. And as long as, you know, the Yankees keep playing that talented defense, man, he's going to get a lot of quick innings. He's very efficient. You rarely see him throw 20 pitches in an inning. So, you know, the hitters don't get a lot of looks at him. So he's going to continue to be good, man. I just hope he stays healthy and he keeps having fun doing what he's doing.
And he's dealt with so much adversity that I don't think anything scares him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's dealt with so much adversity in his career already, you know, Rule 5, getting traded, all these different things that this is like we just talked about. This is icing. This is gravy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So he's just out there having fun. And, you know, when you got a player doing that, you know, they got nothing to lose. You know, you can get on a good roll.
And you know what's crazy about this? Like, and this is the one thing I love about fans and what they can do for you. The fans in the city know he's on a roll. So every time he gets 2 strikes now, it's like, oh, here it comes. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I've only felt that 1.5 years in my career, but it's like, here it comes, bro. Like, you know, when you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's on, bro. You didn't messed up. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's the beauty of the game. And you always need a championship team, always needs someone to kind of come out of nowhere, if you will. You know what I mean? And I think he's that guy for the Yankees.
Yeah. Dontrelle, it's interesting because anyone who has seen you on TV or now is hearing you on the pod, they know that you are made for this next career, right? Like you're great at this. You really are. Obviously,
thank you.
You know, you have the credentials and the personality and the perspective, and I'm wondering, just, you know, how have you enjoyed talking the game, being an analyst, being on TV? Like you are, working for Fox, working for the Dodgers, you know, how have you enjoyed this second career?
Man, I'm playing with the house's money. You know what I mean? Like I feel so incredibly blessed. The scariest 2 weeks of my life, I feel like, is when I retired. And it's like, man, I cannot watch The Wire every day at 34 years old. It's a great show, but it's like, I gotta have something. So I thank God for putting Fox and the teams I work for the Dodgers. It's a great experience. As you know, it's a joy when you finally get the hang of it and you get the pulse of it. You know, I'm proud to see, you know, Chris Young doing television, you know, Cameron Maben doing television. CC, we tried to get CC in a suit, but he refused to wear a suit. You know,
hey, he's got about 300 million reasons not to put that suit on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I get it. I understand. I get it.
Let me tell you something.
That money long like chain smoke. I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. But no, like, I mean, like, I'm blessed to be able to work with the best, the Kevin Burkharts, you know what I mean, the Chris Myers, you know, the Joe Davises. I made a good living in my life riding coattails. I mean, I rode Miguel's coattail. I'm riding Kevin Burkhart's coattail. I mean, you know, so, but I'm having fun with the nuances of it. I'm very brutally honest with who I was as a player. And I think I do a good job of taking people into, especially the struggles of a player and how he feels. And if you're humble like that and you're truthful, I think people, you know, because everybody goes through things like that, regardless if you're in sports or you just have a regular job. So, you know, I'm really having fun just developing as an analyst. And, you know, I'm working in LA, so it's first world problems all the way.
Yeah, that's right, man. You know? Well, Dontrelle, we appreciate you joining us, man. We're going to have to do an extended conversation with you at some point. Maybe when we get into the baseball playoffs and stuff. Yeah, in person, man, because you're wonderful to listen to. I know our audience is going to get the biggest kick out of having you. And congrats on being one of 15 Black Aces in the history of Major League Baseball, man. And thanks for being a part of this special episode.
Not a problem, man. Anything for you guys, man. I've been hating on y'all to get on this show and stuff like that. But you guys are doing a wonderful job, man. Keep inspiring everybody, man. Take care of you guys.
Appreciate
it, Dontrelle.
You got it, baby.
It was great catching up with Dontrelle. Love hearing from Fergie and from Dontrelle. And our special Juneteenth R2C2 is not done because we get to chat now with Andre Gaines, filmmaker, director, producer, whose documentary After Jackie is coming out on the History Channel. And I think it's just going to be outstanding. Andre He's a producer for the one and only Dick Gregory, The Lady in the Dale, and Children of the Corn. You, by the way, just for our audience who's watching on YouTube, which make sure you're subscribed to our new YouTube page, you're going to see us go from remote Zoom to in studio with Andre, who we recorded a couple days ago. So that's the visual difference that you will see. But I'm super excited about this documentary because, as Andre will explain to our audience, a lot of people they think of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier and, okay, that's where the story ends. But as we know, it's not. And Andre and his team do such a wonderful job of diving into the story of, well, what happens in the aftermath of that? Yeah, no,
I'm looking forward to this doc. I mean, I think it's super well done. Andre's great. I think, this doc is going to focus a lot on the Cardinals and what they had to go through and integrate and living together and, Curt Flood and Bill White, what they meant to not only, black baseball, but baseball, as a whole, the sport, and, the way they, were changing the country at the same time, and they were playing the hardest sport to play in the world. So, having a chance to hear Fergie talking about, how great those guys was and having to throw at those guys, and then hearing the impact that they had on the game, off the field, and how close they all were, the Cardinals. So I'm looking forward to this doc, and this conversation with Andre was great.
And I'm sure there are members of you right now in the audience who are thinking, I haven't heard about this doc yet. Well, trust me, after hearing from Andre, you are going to make this doc appointment viewing. It premieres Saturday, this June 18th, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. It's going to stream the next day on the History Channel. So without further ado, here is the outstanding Andre Gaines on R2C2. What was the motivation? Why was it so important for you guys to tell this story after Jackie?
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. Huge fans of the podcast. CC and I had a chance to meet and talk with each other last December when he came to interview for the film, and was such an incredible and integral part to really kind of understanding the story, especially the Black Aces, kind of how we end up getting to where we are now. For me, I'm a fan of unsung heroes. I mean, that's sort of where a great deal of stories that I tell start with. And, that was the case with the Dick Gregory, the one and only Dick Gregory. Was a film that I directed that was on Showtime. That's about the comedian. A lot of people had no clue, really, the level of his contributions really just to American society. And then you sort of skip ahead to after Jackie, and you have these guys, Curt Flood, Bill White, Bob Gibson, Curt Flood, who I probably knew the most about of the three, just because of potential other projects and sort of built around free agency. And we hear a lot about Jackie Robinson, but there's even parts of Jackie Robinson's story that are unsung. I mean, we sort of hear the story of the breaking the color barrier, and then it just kind of like stops. But there's this whole life that Jackie Robinson had after retirement as a civil rights activist that he really doesn't get that much credit for, to be honest. And so it was, in our story, and after Jackie, that's really where the story begins. It really begins with Jackie's retirement in 1957. And so then you go into that, and you have a whole nother wave of guys and a whole nother world that you kind of are able to dive into.
Who was the biggest surprise, I guess, or unsung hero that you uncovered, during this story?
I mean, I would say that Bill White, for sure, I think does not get as much credit as he deserves. We talked to Mike Claiborne, the broadcaster out of St. Louis, and in his opinion, he's just like, Bill White is the second most important African American next to Jackie Robinson in the game of baseball of all of the first, really, that Bill White was able to accomplish, being the first president of a major league, and not just baseball, but just all of sport. and what that really means in the back office kind of going forward. And so I think that, and Bill White, he's so demure. I mean, it doesn't sound like he was that way all the time. He was way more gregarious, but in his older age, is certainly more demure and humble about it. But what it is that he was able to accomplish was extraordinary. And Tim Carver, we talked to, also from the Cardinals team, and really gave Bill a substantial amount of credit for integrating the housing during the spring training dilemma that the Cardinals were facing in the early 60s, of just wanting to be together, of the team wanting to live in the same place while they were, preparing for the season. And so I think that was really surprising. But I would say the even bigger surprising, thing, like there was sort of two of them. One is that, again, we sort of hear the story of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, and then it's just kind of all roses and glitter and unicorns. But Jackie, on the way out toward the end of his career, you don't really see that side of Jackie Robinson as being the agitator or being considered really one of the most hated men in baseball. And we had, facts really to prove that. And you don't really see that side of the Jackie Robinson story, which we were really able to tell a little bit here. And also the fact, Stanley Nelson, who's a brilliant, longtime award-winning director, who's an executive producer on this film as well. He was the one who really enlightened me of the Black baseball players that were playing in the late 1800s. Moses Fleetwood Walker, Bud Fowler, that these guys were there. And we really wanted to be, before this gentleman's agreement was put in place, to kick any or ban any Black ball players from coming into the league until 60 years later, and Jackie Robinson going in and re-breaking the color barrier that was sort of put in place that way. So I think it's going to be a for baseball fans and non-baseball fans, because I'm a baseball fan, but I am not a baseball aficionado. Mm-hmm. I told that to LeBron and his team when they first brought me on in MLB. I told them that, and they were like, "No, that's a good thing, because you won't be all in your head, about inside baseball." It's like, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a storyteller, I'm a student of history. I know some of these stories, but there's other ones that I didn't know, and was surprised to find there's a lot that even MLB and other people didn't know that we're able to bring to the surface in this story.
And baseball is so much a part of American history. It is our pastime.
It is, right.
A lot of what happened in MLB reflects the country at that time and at that moment of whatever story you're telling in time. You tell the story of whatever Black Aces, Jackie Robinson, whatever. You have to tell the story of what was happening in America at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. And what's interesting, because it's America's greatest pastime and the oldest sport and sort of all of those types of things, you can directly track, you can directly correlate American history with what's happening in baseball. Mm-hmm. Something you and I talked about when you were interviewing for the film is the interesting fact that you have this most historic sport that in many ways right now is a little behind the times. Mm-hmm. And what, you spoke so eloquently about it, Mookie Betts spoke about it, Tony Regan spoke about it, of what the league is doing or needs to do really to sort of bring back Black kids and African Americans, into the sport. You have this long history of progress, but there's sort of a sea change that needs to kind of turn its way back towards that change.
Andre, something C was saying to me just before you came on, and you just kind of talked about, was like for whatever reason, right? We all have these sort of associations like, oh, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, and then everything was great, right? And then things were as they should, and clearly that wasn't. And obviously, this story is going to give light to some of the context of that, that time period after Jackie broke the color barrier, right, and the end of Jackie's career. But if you were, without obviously giving the entire film away, because we want everyone to watch it, but if you were going to kind of just give an overview of the context of that period of time and just like how it was in general for African American baseball players in the late 50s. So now, we're talking a decade removed. How would you kind of describe that period of time and what it was like at that moment for Black baseball players?
Well, what's interesting about Jackie Robinson, again, just because he's the first, or the first in a very long enough, time for multiple generations to have forgotten about any of the ball players that existed in the late 1800s and 1884, is that Jackie was a player first, and then in retirement became an activist. Mm-hmm. And toward the end of his career, he started to get a little more aggressive. He started to speak out a little more, sort of like, after however many seasons that he had played, he sort of finally felt that he could speak out. But if you stop and think, he was the with Branch Rickey, I mean, any story that you see, like you watch 42 with Chadwick Boseman, or you watch Ken Burns, or you watch any of the stories about Jackie Robinson, it's a foregone conclusion and a fact that Jackie was actually set up to not fight back. Mm-hmm. That's the structure of Jackie Robinson and the manufacturing of this hero was really to not fight back. Didn't mean that he didn't want to. Didn't mean that he didn't want to say anything, or he didn't want to, fight someone physically. And so after Jackie, in the late 50s and the early 60s, where you're sort of going into a new American Revolution with civil rights. I mean, Dr. King was already a national figure. He hadn't sort of reached the prominence that he reached in the 60s, but with the bus boycott in 1955, he was already on that, trajectory and that path. Is that when you cross over into, that decade, and you have guys like Bill White, Curt Flood, Bob Gibson, this is really like the first wave in our nation's history where we're seeing the combined player activist at the same time. I mean, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell. I mean, just like this is the first time that you're really seeing that. And these guys are doing it. They're still playing the game. Men and women who were fighting for equality, both on and off the field, still playing the game and really doing it at like the highest level possible. Yeah. It's not just some bench warmer, that's out there. These are the best of the best. And that's really the first time that we see that, occur. And they were able to do a lot of what Jackie was not able to do. So that's why he was this huge mentor and guru, an advocate and supporter there, kind of leading them along the way. I mean, Dr. King, even was taking advice from Jackie Robinson, because Jackie Robinson had reached national prominence. And Dr. King, before Dr. King had, and Dr. King was actually able, to look at and say, he's on record saying that, had Jackie not done what he did, it would have been nearly impossible or harder for Dr. King to do what he did. And so that's what Jackie's legacy is. And these guys were able to carry that torch.
It's so interesting. Like I'm just imagining, Andre, the research you have to do, right, to just be able to contextualize everything and to have the references you need, right, to tell the story you want to tell. And then everything is important and everything is interesting. And how do you distill then what kind of narrow focus you can put in your film while still having, and this I guess is sort of more of just a filmmaking question, but while still having the context you need that the audience may not be aware of? How do you go through that process?
Oh, sure. The three things: therapy, prayer, and tears. Yeah, those are the three main
maybe a little wine.
Yeah, right. Throw some wine in there. Yeah, right. No, that's the three main ingredients. No, it is hard. I won't lie. I mean, there's like. That's why they have such a thing called the director's cut. It's like 3 hours,
Yeah.
It's because there's so much, and in this case, we have four main characters, really. We've got Jackie Robinson, we've got Bill White, we've got Bob Gibson, we got Kurt Flood. Hank Aaron, there's a historic interview that MLB had done of Hank Aaron that we have in there. We only touched briefly upon Willie Mays and Frank Robinson and a couple of these other guys, just very briefly. But yeah, that's, it's a hard thing. I mean, first of all, I would never give any impression that all this research is done by me. I mean, like I have a whole team.
Right.
I do a lot of research. I mean, when I first jumped into it, just get piles of books and just literally start consuming them as much as possible. Just to try to get an idea or get a grip of the story arc of what it is that we're going to tell. But, but with this, I mean, at a certain point from a filmmaking standpoint, you just have to say no new stories. It's like we have these amazing stories and you can keep going deeper and deeper. And, God bless Ken Burns, who really invented so much of the modern documentary storytelling process. You look at his movies or the series of his movies, and yeah, he takes his time, and it's going to be a 6-8 hour experience, just because he's going to get so much of the things and that we as filmmakers aren't able to get in just 2 hours. So it's a hard decision process, but at the end of the day, you realize that there's a handful of facts, or there's a handful of interesting stories that people just don't know or never heard of. And you want to bubble up the most entertaining thing to the top and really kind of work your way backwards and then, make some decisions.
But that's why I'm glad these stories are being told. I think more stories need to be told like this. And, like we talked about earlier, I want to do the Black Aces story, like all these different things.
Oh, sure.
Because
yeah.
it relates so much to American history. And I think, just people need to hear these stories about these, these Black heroes that were so good in the game of baseball, while facing so much.
Yeah, especially around baseball. I mean, we didn't even, touch on Mudcat Grant. I mean, we didn't even get... we didn't even get a chance to. I mean, in the limited time that we had, but it is. I think it's the unsung hero aspect of it, but it is very unique as it relates to baseball because it was such a part of the fabric of our society. And another part of the story that we have in the film that, again, we're only able to touch on for just a brief period of time is the Negro Leagues, is the enterprise of the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
And this was one of the biggest Black businesses, or one of the biggest businesses in the Black community. And churches would, schedule services essentially around folks going to Negro League games on Sunday.
Yeah.
And how this was just completely decimated as a result of the integration, of the league. And it's something, it's like you watch it and it's kind of like, man, I feel like we kind of missed out a little. Like these games looked like they were fun, like to actually go and hang out on a Sunday and have all your people around you and watch some of the greatest athleticism and sportsmanship that you're really ever going to see, and have that the promise of that on every Sunday on a weekly basis, it's a very unique thing. And so we wanted to be able to touch upon that a little bit too, but you can make, a 6-part series about that easily.
Well, Andre, we'll be talking to you about that offline, about the next series that's coming out.
Let's get started.
Hey, Andre, we can't wait for June 18th. We know, the film is just terrific. People are going to absolutely love it. Obviously the stories are incredibly important to tell, but the way you do it is also what makes it hit. So thank you for spending some time with us, and hopefully we'll talk more down the road.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, Andre.
Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
I'm so excited for After Jackie. I think, Andre, he's such an interesting dude. He's so smart. And I just love the vision that he had for this film. I know our audience is going to get a massive kick out of it. And I love the 3 different acclaimed guests that we got to speak with for this special episode, man.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, I know the fans had to wait, a couple extra hours to get this episode, but, I think it's worth it. It's a special weekend. In my family and in my hometown, we celebrated Juneteenth every year. It was always a big celebration. It was always a holiday for us. And, to see it be celebrated nationally now, it's just a blessing, and it's awesome to have this day. So we wanted to give you guys something special and hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. See, actually, I'm glad you brought it back full circle to that, because, you kind of just touched on it, but what does it mean to you now to see it officially recognized as a national holiday?
No, it's awesome. I think, it's long overdue. But like I said, it was always something that was a festival where I was growing up. So I was always aware of Juneteenth. It was just one of those unique things where, the community in Vallejo, a lot of those people migrated from the South. A lot of people came from Louisiana, Mississippi. I know my family did. So they brought a lot of those traditions with them. And Juneteenth was one of them in our community. So to see everybody get a chance to celebrate this now on a national level is awesome.
All right. Well, we so appreciate all you guys hanging with us for the duration, and I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this as much as we did with Dontrelle, with Fergie, and with Andre. Make sure you check out After Jackie. Make sure you check out R2C2. New episodes every week on Thursday. Bonus episodes as well. You could follow us wherever you get your podcast, download and subscribe, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube page as well. You just type in R2C2 in the YouTube search, and boom, click subscribe. It's free, and we love you for it. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace, everybody.
Peace.